Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. This is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining us this week for the first time in 2022 is Ontario Reign play-by-play commentator Josh Schaefer, college football analyst and expert Lyle Goldstein, executive producer and Stetson Bennett's #1 fan Brady Klain. I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, I had to go back and take a look. It's, I think, been about 5 weeks since our last show. We've done only 2 shows, or this is our second show, I think, or third show since Thanksgiving. It's been some time. I forgot how to open StreamYard. I almost forget what you guys even look like or sound like. So it's great to see you all because it's been a long time. Has there been any life-changing news that's happened with you guys? Because normally I say, how's your week going? But since it's been so long, I feel like we need to update each other with anything that's happened because, again, I haven't seen you guys since last year. It's been that long.
Yeah, I got married. I had 7 children.
Nice.
I have been fired. Huh?
Oh, you're Mormon.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, headed up to BYU this week. We're moving to Provo. I'm really excited to meet more people by setting my Tinder location to Provo, Utah. I've been swiping for days, just like somebody else I know that may or may not be in this chat. So a lot has changed for me recently. Thank you for asking, Blake.
Yeah, you're welcome, Josh.
I can't say I packed up all the boxes and moved to Provo, Utah. Although I did move to Florida. No, I'm kidding.
The setup looks exactly the same.
It's just the Zoom background that Brady had while just think of his room.
Oh, it's a backdrop, exactly. It's like a green screen.
He brought the childhood poster of him to Florida with him as his background.
That's impressive.
Props to you, Lyle. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's see. A year ago today, I moved to Texas for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Go Fighters.
Go Fighters. Where's my ball? Oh, since we've had a show last, I died. Went to heaven. It was great. Went to hell because, obviously. And I'm back. So here we go. Good time. Oh, I was also at the national championship. That was fun.
Oh, that's true.
There you go. So
ready for that insider information?
Yes.
Insider information about 2.5 weeks after the national championship.
Yes.
All the stories Brady was ready to break have already been broken. Like, Brady actually knew that night that JT Daniels was gone and Stetson Bennett was coming back. It's just it's taken 2.5 weeks, but Sorry, Brady, did I break the news?
No, I will say, I was gonna say though, after the game, I was like walking around amongst all the players. I'm like, oh, it's JT Daniels. He did not look very happy. He was like, he's not happy. Like, you won, congrats, but you're not looking happy.
All right, guys. So we have about, 50 minutes to talk and catch up with all you guys. So we're going to be talking tonight about the national championship, just overall the game, Georgia's season as a whole, any notable bowl games that, just we want to quickly look back on. And pretty much it's just going to be a 2021 season recap, talking about the biggest surprises, the biggest disappointments in regards to teams, players, coaches, just overall our reactions to the entire college football season, because, it's been a month since our last show. Our last show was just a bowl show. So it's been a while since we actually talked college football. So we want to hear your guys' thoughts throughout the show. Again, we're going to be talking about different topics, but we want to hear from you guys. We want to answer your questions. So whenever we're talking about the national title game or just the season as a whole, ask us questions in the live chat about anything from the 2021 college football season. We want to answer as many questions as we can. So whatever you guys got, or if you have any takeaways, hot takes, throw those up in the live chat. We'll get those up there as well. So again, we want to make this as interactive as possible over the course of the next 45 minutes. So guys, without further ado, before we talk about the national championship, I do want to talk about our Bowl Mania. Since it's been so long, if you go into the ESPN Fantasy app, it no longer has Bowl Mania. So I had to go manually and Google the Bowl Mania thing and try to find the results, which wasn't easy. So hey, if you're out there, Danny DeVito's picks, go blue, Tomas 1, and TG8. Well, congratulations. You guys had a three-way tie with 28 points, which how many? There's 44 bowl games?
Yikes.
So 28 out of 44 was the best. Guys, it gets worse for us. Now, just like I did in the regular season, I came out on top, but I came out in first, getting less than half of them right, apparently. I got 21. Josh got 20. Brady got 18. Lyle got 16. So it was a rough bowl season for all four of us.
When we say expert, we don't know what we're talking about.
Hey, half those games got canceled, didn't they?
They did.
That's true.
They did.
Blake,
So
I think you got 100% even.
that's true.
Might have.
So when you take away, I guess, all those canceled games, maybe there was 35 or 36. So it makes it a little more impressive. But at least it was close. So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's have some fun here. National championship reaction. And again, unfortunately, we haven't been able to talk about the game since, except it was going on in our group chat the night of. We also think Stetson Bennett should have been on the bench, but hey, we can talk about that in a few minutes. Overall, we'll just do a quick, immediate takeaway from the game as a whole, and then we can just go, more in depth on certain topics that happened from the game. So, Josh, as always, I'll throw it to you first.
Well, guys, I gotta say, I'm very happy about the Bulldogs winning. You guys might remember early on in the season, I made some very bold predictions. I said that Georgia was going to play Clemson and Alabama twice, despite Alabama not being on their schedule. For one, that means I alluded to Clemson being in the playoff. Yikes! I'll bring up this next point later, one of my other bold predictions. But I did say that they'd play Alabama twice in the conference championship and in the playoff, and they did. I did have Georgia going all the way, and I mentioned early on that I thought they were going to go undefeated and win the national championship. So I'm excited that I was right about that. But more importantly, I'm just excited for Georgia. It's the same thing as different for me as a Dodgers fan, but I think it's similar to the Dodgers, to the Tampa Bay Lightning, where it's these guys are around every year and they get so close to the end and they lose in the playoff, or they lose in the national championship, or they lose in the SEC title game, where they've been around. They've been a college football playoff contender for the last 5 years, and they finally get one here. It's been their first championship since forever. Just their first national championship in forever for the football program. So I think it's really cool for Georgia. I will start by saying this. I am very happy for Stetson Bennett, especially when you consider the game that dude had. And when you look at his stats, I think it makes it look like he had a decent game. The dude looked bad. I mean, he looked really, really bad. Really bad. But his stats, he pulled it out at the end. He was good in the fourth quarter. That fourth quarter was like watching a completely different game for him. So I'm happy for him, and I'm happy the way that he pulled it out, especially with coming from, the story that he had where, he was there as a walk-on and left and came back and had to be persuaded to come back. So good for him, and good for Kirby Smart getting the win over Nick Saban. And it was, and think about it. They got ran a couple weeks ago and then came back and beat Alabama convincingly. So good for them.
This game reminded me a little bit of Clemson, Alabama from 2016, just in the sense of it didn't come down to the wire, but for 3 quarters, it didn't really feel like a very good game. And then it really got intense in the fourth quarter, and action started to pick up and points started to get scored. Because I know people remember the Hunter Renfrow game-winning catch from that 2016 game. But the truth is, that game wasn't great until the very end, or at least the last 5-6 minutes. And it kind of felt the same way with this game. But yeah, it's cool. It's just cool to see another team win. I mean, in some ways, it's always cool to see Alabama win. I mean, it's a cliche, boring outcome because they do it almost every year or every other year. In some ways, it's just cool to see greatness right before our eyes with what Nick Saban's doing. But in a lot of ways, you just want to see other teams win. You want to see something different. You want to feel like you can see some different outcomes and not just be able to simulate the season. So that was cool. It also felt like this was kind of the year for defense in college football, which for football in general, it doesn't feel like it kind of trends that way very often these days. But between Michigan, between a couple other teams, and especially Georgia, the national champions, that's what got them here. I mean, they're going to have 3 or 4 guys that go in the first round on that defense. They had a phenomenal pass rush. Nakobe Dean's probably going to go top 15, and then they had great guys back in the secondary. So I thought that was kind of a cool change of the narrative. Alabama didn't play badly, and Bryce Young wasn't awful, but that defense just proved to be too much the second time around. And I thought between a new champion and kind of a new form of winning it, and by new, it's going back to the old and the sense of running the football and playing defense, it was kind of just an interesting change of the narrative, and one we don't see that often these days.
Now, Brady, as someone who's nearly identical in size as Jordan Davis, what was it like standing next to him the night of the Natty?
He could be one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen in my life. Like, he reminds me a lot. Like, I know they're different size, but they're very similar. He reminds me a lot of Quinnen Williams in size and just personality, where he's like, hey, I'm just 9 feet tall, weighs 6,000 pounds, and I'm just happy to be here. Like, he's just having fun. I gotta find this. It was I'm pulling it up right now. I'm gonna try to get this downloaded. Is the photo I got of him holding the trophy. And you guys know how big the trophy is, so I'm gonna try to pull this up here. 1 second. Hang on. Here we go. Share. Ooh, there's some new options here. Cool.
Yeah, StreamYard's stepping it up.
Here you go. Look how big this man's hands are holding that trophy. It's a big trophy. The one on the bottom's like damn near going around the whole thing. He's a large individual.
I mean, if he was a quarterback with those hands, he'd be going 1-1 because he goes to the combine. You get the hand measurements. It's like, well, that's our guy right there. The Jags are going to take him right away and say, you know what, Trevor Lawrence, good quarterback, but just doesn't have the hand size that Jordan Davis does.
Here's this. Here's now a photo of of Stetson Bennett holding the trophy. You can see his hand size compared to it. A little smaller. A little smaller. Yeah. So
was this before or after he was blacked?
Wait, go back to that.
Hang on.
Is that him behind Stetson Bennett in this photo?
Like directly behind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because look at his hand. He's like in the background, and it looks like he's bigger than Stetson Bennett's arm.
And that's Nakobe Dean standing to the right of him.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, that Nakobe Dean touchdown should have been a touchdown. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing I will say is, to Josh's point he brought up earlier, is we were there during the game on the sideline, and I looked at one of my photographers I was working with, and we're like, this game sucks. It was boring. Like, yeah, it was cool to be in the atmosphere and the environment. Like, that's always fun and energetic. The game itself, until the fourth quarter.
Well, I mean, the first touchdown wasn't until what, like the 1 minute mark in the third quarter?
This was the first national championship in history without a first half touchdown. which says leaps and bounds, because for how great these two offenses were supposed to be with the weapons that both had, yes, all right, Stetson Bennett, ups and downs, didn't have a great season, was inconsistent. Yeah, he led the team to a national championship, had his ups and downs in the game. I will say, though, that ball he had to George Pickens down the middle was, I was standing on the back end of it, so I saw the throw, and I was like, damn, that was a ball. Like, he dropped it, and he had to scramble out of there, too. So it was, I mean, this is a terrible comparison, but it's the first thing that I thought of, is he reminds me of Drew Brees. Of
all right,
size, just the quick jittery movements in the pocket. I'm not saying he's Drew Brees level talent or anything, but just some of the mannerisms he had were Drew Brees-ish. But the best thing that we had from Stetson Bennett all weekend was him being hammered the day after, like hands down.
And then showing up at a Cane's and just working the drive-through window for a couple hours as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad sponsorship he signed, and then charging people $33.18 for their meal.
There you go. Before we dive in, because that's one topic I do want to talk about for the most part is Stetson Bennett. Our man Connor comes in with the super chat. What's up, guys? Connor, it has been a while since we haven't done a show in a while or seen you in a while. I'm just glad I won our pick'ems overall. Also, I finished second in the bowl pick'ems. So I feel like Connor's always like near the top when it comes to these, so no surprise to see him. Connor, we have a coaches and transfer show coming in the next couple of weeks, which I'm sure is going to be filled with a bunch of Virginia. Well, every school is majorly involved at this point in regards to coaching and transfers. So lots of Virginia Tech talk that's going to be coming your way, Connor. So definitely stay tuned for that. All right, guys, I do want to talk about Stetson Bennett because that was kind of like the big thing in regards to the entire national championship game. Also, I do like what Lyle said because I also agree. It's like the same with Tom Brady. I know a lot of people hate seeing Tom Brady win it all every year, but this is like between Nick Saban winning every year and Tom Brady winning every year. Like we'll look back like 30 to 50 years from now and go, holy crap, like that was insane what they were doing. Yes, Brady?
One thing I wanted to say, and I meant to bring this up, and that was a great segue, and I'll say it quickly. I've been to 2 national championships. I've shot 2 national championships, neither of which have been won by Alabama. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Hey, so whoever Bama's playing in the title game, boosters, or actually no, the other team, send Brady there, and your team is going to win.
You're going to win. There you go.
All right, guys. So as we said, through the first 3 quarters, but I mean, Bryce Young and Stetson Bennett were playing awful, but Stetson Bennett especially, I think, he had a couple good plays here and there, but it was just an overall awful game. We will say the fourth quarter, the dude went berserk and looked like an entirely different quarterback. But let's just say, there's a reality out there in which Alabama still ends up winning the game. I mean, it was still close in that fourth quarter. They still had a chance on the final drive just to tie the game before the game-winning pick six. Let's say Bama comes out on top, wins that game. Stetson Bennett doesn't, necessarily make a couple of those plays. And instead of all of a sudden talking about Kirby Smart and his legacy with Georgia, we're talking about this Georgia team. What would the reaction have been if Georgia would have lost? Kirby would have stuck with Stetson Bennett during an awful performance with JT Daniels on the bench. And overall, just Kirby Smart's, yet again, not being able to get over the hump and beating Nick Saban. Because I think coming into this game, Kirby Smart was something like 0-5 against Nick Saban in his career since he became the coach at Georgia. So, ultimately, you look at the scoreboard, and it doesn't seem like it was close. But there's a chance this game could have swung the other direction. And there would be a lot of discussion going on with Georgia. So had there been that possibility in that realm that Alabama would have won, what do you think would be like happening currently with like the Georgia program and Kirby Smart?
Blake and his hypotheticals, but this is a good one. I think this is very interesting because, I mean, if you think about it, if that fourth quarter had gone a little bit differently, I think that there would be a lot of backlash about leaving Stetson Bennett in the game. I think the result would still be JT Daniels transferring, because how could you possibly watch the fact that he left him in the game? I still, to this day, however many weeks later, was a bad decision. I think that Bennett was good in the fourth quarter and it worked out. But even in the moment, I'm like, how are you not putting JT Daniels in this game? It's the same. Like, that was the difference. Was I know that we've talked about this on the show before, Fields versus Fromm. I didn't think Fromm was a bad quarterback, and we weren't at practice, right? I don't know what's going on in practice, Fields obviously went on to be a significantly better player and a better quarterback than Jake Fromm was, and is going to be a good NFL quarterback in the future. But I mean, right now we've seen what JT Daniels can do when he's in charge of that offense, and we've seen what Stetson Bennett is producing in front of our eyes. And the difference in that moment for me was, but the difference between Kirby Smart and Nick Saban in that moment was Nick Saban had the guts to make a move to define the national championship in an instant a couple of years ago and did it. So,
yeah.
And suddenly Tua's in the NFL. So is Jalen Hurts. Good for him. He had a good college career, but like he made that move in the middle of the game because Jalen wasn't playing up to his standards, and Tua won the national championship for him. So I think if that game goes a little bit differently, that's probably something that I think people are going to talk about, is a move that should have been made and didn't. And honestly, wouldn't be surprised if JT was like, you know what? You totally turned your back on me. I could have given you a chance to win and you didn't. So I think that's something that changes. But also, I think we're talking about Saban having a team really give it to him in the national championship defensively, and they still pull it out and continue the greatest, legacy for any coach in college football history. I mean, he already has it, and it would have just been another one for him. And I think we would have been talking about that too.
That was always my argument with the whole Fields Fromm thing was to what you were saying about Nick Saban having the courage to make the move to pull Jalen for Tua. It was the same thing that Dabo did with Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence, where Kelly Bryant was a good college quarterback. He just wasn't Trevor Lawrence. And that was always my take about Fields versus Fromm was Fromm was a good college quarterback, but I think they might have somebody better. If Alabama won that national championship, we would have come on to this show and basically said, how many free passes does Kirby Smart get for benching superior quarterbacks? Because you look at the rest of his roster, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you've got 5 stars on the outside at receiver. You've got 5 stars across the defense. You've got 5 stars on the offensive line. And then here's Stetson Bennett, who had an offer from his hometown in Georgia, and then it was like UMass, Toledo, and wherever else. So, I mean, and to Josh's point, yeah, Jake Fromm was better than Stetson Bennett. Jake Fromm was a good college quarterback. He just didn't end up being Justin Fields. Where Stetson Bennett, I mean, I know he had a good fourth quarter, but there were some games throughout his career up to this point where, I mean, he was Bo Nix. So I was in favor of playing JT Daniels, especially by the time it got to the fourth quarter where they couldn't move the ball. I was like, you've got to make a change. You've got to make a move. And even to this point, kind of like Josh says, it feels weird to say, yeah, they probably still should have put JT Daniels in, but they didn't. Like Stetson Bennett won the game and he's the national champion and he's going to wear that crown forever. But it's still kind of a weird thing where it's like JT Daniels didn't play and they won, but I still almost kind of feel like he should have, is my 2 cents. But
that's what's so big about Kirby is this was vindication for him. Mm-hmm. Not just against Saban, but for the moves that he had or hadn't made in the past. Because look, go with your gut, right? But that's what Dabo did. That's what Saban did. And it paid off for them in the long run. So,
yeah.
Wow, exactly. Short round was ahead of you here.
Ooh, I mean, I think I have to take Bennett at this point because he did win a national title.
National championship.
Again, by default, he now has earned a national championship, even though this was a team that was basically led by the entire defense first. But even still, it would probably be Bennett.
27-2. You guys know what I'm referencing when I say that? 27-2.
I really hope it's not Stetson Bennett's record as a quarterback.
Was that Jalen Hurts' record when he got taken out? Okay.
Nick Saban's record against his former assistants.
Yeah.
Those two came this year.
I was going to say this year. Yeah.
Fire Saban.
He's washed.
He's washed. He doesn't have it anymore.
Those are the best. I think Josh did that on Twitter, or one of you guys searched all the fire Saban.
Josh,
it's time for him to go.
No,
right.
Lyle found it.
Oh.
And then Lyle tweeted it.
Yeah,
that was me. I just for the sake of it, I was like, you know what? There should not be a single person on earth saying this, but Twitter's a place where you can find somebody to say just about anything.
Hey,
including-
Alabama fans are. I don't know if you guys saw that clip of someone calling into the Paul Feinbaum show. If it was this Alabama fan who was claiming because Alabama was without Jamison Williams and John Mechie that the title shouldn't count because Alabama wasn't at 100%. And he was being dead serious, saying that Alabama is his national champion.
I almost wonder if it's even still fun for Alabama fans, because I feel like every single year the expectation is, yeah, well, we'll be in the national title. It's just the question of are we going to win it or not? Although we probably should touch on that.
Are you going to say it or am I?
What? Go ahead, Josh.
What were you going to say, Brady?
No. I mean, you were going to say. You go.
No. You go.
No, I was going to say something I heard, but you go ahead.
What did you hear?
Fans at the game asking Alabama fans at the game, saying, "Where's the game next year?" And someone's like, "Oh, it's in LA." They're like, "Oh, cool. That'll be much warmer for us." They just expect it.
Wait, short round just said this. Are you short round? That is someone we've never considered to be short round. Is Brady?
Oh, no.
See, look at the last comment.
I saw that on Twitter, but it was fans of the game. So he saw that. He saw that tweet. Yeah.
Wait, what were you gonna say, Josh?
It's past, but I mean,
bring it back, buddy. Come on, you got me going. I need to know.
When you said there were Alabama fans that were saying that the result shouldn't count, I was going to say, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
yikes!
Not the only thing Alabama people don't think counted.
Little on the nose there, Brady. Little on the nose.
I was just gonna say that we probably should touch on that. Was
our fans, Josh?
Nothing.
I was just gonna say we should probably touch on the fact that Bama didn't have John Mechie or, for the most part of that game, Jamison Williams. It changes so much. I mean, if those guys play, we might just be talking about a Bama win. We can't know for sure, but there's a very, very distinct possibility that those guys are healthy and on the field. We're talking about Alabama winning again.
Yeah. And one final thing.
Starting running back too.
Yeah, one final thing I'll add about, how Stetson Bennett now is a god in the state of Georgia. He's like the greatest thing ever. Kirby Smart's, a genius. We talk about Stetson Bennett. He did have a great fourth quarter, but in reality, he had that one pretty good throw for the touchdown, but it was probably an even better catch. But still, props to him for that throw. But the play before, he got sacked for like 10 yards. I think on that drive, he only had like 2 completions in general. And then on the next drive, when he had the touchdown to Brock Bowers, that was his only pass attempt on the entire drive. Georgia ran down the entire field. And then Stetson Bennett literally kind of just, here, Brock.
Yeah.
Here, Brock.
He shot put it.
Brock.
Yeah. He
Brock catch.
That's like, coming to the back door. They're coming to the back door. Save the children. That's what was so funny. I was watching the game with my roommate Braden, who you guys all know, and one of his friends from work who's a Georgia fan. And so Bennett got sacked, right? Like the play before that big throw. And then when we were all like, God, he's so bad. Like, why is he still in the game? And then he loads up for that throw. And I remember audibly going, stop, when he threw the ball downfield. And it was like that insane
was that the
throw.
Touchdown?
Yeah, and we were all like,
yeah.
Gosh. All right. So, overall, it was a great game, great fourth quarter, great seeing a new team win overall. Just, a lot of good storylines. Stetson Bennett's one thing. Guys, before we move on, though, there's one thing that I desperately wanted, and that was to find this Georgia fan and, see what his thoughts are on winning the national championship.
Hey, guys, it's Taylor here with DCNlive.com, and I've got a crazy Georgia fan. Yeah. I don't really know what's going on, so why don't you tell me?
This is the Dogs! It's the Samber, baby! This is how we do it for the Dogs! Go, Georgia! Woo!
Wait, why are you white?
We're getting the red and black going right now. White base coat.
White's just the first step.
White base coat. We get a red and then we get a black going. And that's the Dogs! The red and the black! Yeah!
So does the white help it stick?
Oh, that video never gets old.
It reminds me of Blake at all ASU sporting events.
Yeah, except I was on the bongo cam and I was a fan of the game. There's a difference. There's a difference in regards to those. All right, guys, let's talk about some surprises.
Can I say one last thing about the game?
Oh, of course.
No.
Last thing, and it doesn't even have to do with the game. You guys follow Nicole Arbach on Twitter?
No.
I think yeah, I do. She writes for The Athletic, right?
Yeah, she's like the main college football writer. She's awesome. Well, never mind. I was gonna say if you guys followed her, you'd know that she's awesome on Twitter, and she's just as delightful in person.
Oh, good.
She's a great lady. Great lady.
Fantastic.
Also, Matt Berry, the guy from our intro, says hi. Saw him too. He says hi.
Yes.
To all of us.
Did you tell him Harris Highlights Show?
Yeah, he knew what it was. He's like, "You guys still doing the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, we are."
Wow,
he
what
asked
a
about
legend.
it actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I mean, Brady, after you gave him the $100 and begged him to do the intro, I mean, how can he forget?
Right.
Remember, I got on my knees in the Cronkite school and said, Matt, please, Matt Berry, give us an intro.
And then there's some
All right,
gong in
guys.
the background of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's like, okay, so I've spent like several years trying to figure out what that is, and I figured out what it is. That was after they set up all the chairs and everything and tables, and somebody from like the maintenance crew was moving like a table or something, and they like hit the staircase and it went bong.
It was either the staircase, like one of the poles for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one of the poles.
Yeah. Listen
All
for
right.
it in the intro. You'll never unhear it.
Yep.
You won't. That's what I hear every time. All right, guys. So again, we're going to be spending the rest of the show talking about biggest surprises, biggest disappointments from the 2021 season. So anything you guys have in regards to the season, questions, takeaways, hot takes, comments, concerns, dreams, aspirations, whatever you got from the season, let us know in the live chat. We'll be answering your guys' questions and sharing ours as well. So let's start this off on a positive note, guys. Biggest surprises. The college football season has come and gone. This could be anything from team, player, coach, anything out there that's college football related. What do you got? What surprised you over the course of the 2021 campaign?
Biggest surprise for me was that my Michigan prediction was not just wrong, it was so flat out incorrect. It was hashtag fake news. I said
share your take again for those that don't remember our hot takes episode back in
I don't
July.
want to, but I will. I said that Michigan wasn't going to make a bowl game. So I thought that they were I'm fine to be wrong. There was also a point in this season when you guys remember that even when they had won like 5 games to open the year, I predicted them to keep losing every week because I was hoping that my prediction would still somehow be correct. That didn't happen. So I was happy to be wrong. Good for our guy, Jimmy Harbaugh, James Harbaugh. So
Jimothy.
Good for him. Good Jimothy, as some say. Good for
Did
him.
you see the
Good for
photo of him
Michigan.
squatting?
Yeah.
What a guy he is, right? But good for him. Good for them. Aiden Hutchinson had a phenomenal season. And Michigan was really good. And of course, like their national championship was not just a chance to play in the national championship. It was beating Ohio State. And I understand you're Michigan, your standard, your national championship should not be beating Ohio State for the first time in ever. But I'd be okay with that being their national championship this year. I mean, to be an elite college football program historically, and then even in the last 10 years, being good in many of those years, not like, let's say above average. Michigan has had some very good seasons in that losing streak to Ohio State and still could not beat them except for that one game where definitely they got robbed at the end and Ohio State won. But we don't need to go there. But good for them for going through all of it and getting the win over Ohio State. I'm happy for Michigan. So good for them.
Team-wise, I'd probably say Baylor, just because I don't think anybody expected him to win the Big 12 this year. So I think that's certainly one. And for how well Dave Aranda ascended as a coach from the start of this year. Yeah, and it's in the comments too. Thomas says the same thing. They didn't have a good 2020, and then they won the Big 12 in 2021. By the way, did you guys ever see that video that came out of the final 4 plays of that drive where Baylor stuffed Oklahoma State 4 times and somebody synced it with a SNL skit with Andy Samberg and Bill Hader or whatever? And after every play, they're playing the song like "What You Say" by Jason Derulo.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And they're getting shot down or whatever, and then who's it? Amy Schumer comes in at the end too, right? Okay, so that's synced up with the 4 plays of Oklahoma State just getting stuffed. at the end. I thought it was hilarious. I'll have to send it to you guys.
I was gonna say,
after
if
the
you
show.
find it, send it, because I know what skit you're talking about, and I always laugh at it.
Yeah, so they sunk it up with the
It's
final
the
four
worst
plays.
skit, but it's so funny.
Exactly. So I would say Baylor for a team. And then for a player, I mean, I'd say Will Anderson. I know he finished top 5 in Heisman voting. He still should have gotten an invite to New York, but 31 tackles for loss is unprecedented stuff. I don't know the next time we're going to see anybody do that in a 15-game college football season, but I mean, that's absolutely unreal. 17 and a half sacks. Like, that's like one of the best defensive seasons of college players probably ever had, and at a level like Alabama. Like, I know a few years ago when guys like Max Crosby were putting up crazy stats, but they played at small schools. Like, to do it against SEC opponents is crazy. Like, so for Will Anderson to do that I think that was a huge surprise. And by the way, they might have another linebacker on that team that is going to turn into Will Anderson in a couple years. And he totally showed up in that title game. His name was Dallas Turner. He's a freshman. That kid, like, I think he's going to be Will Anderson by the end of his time at Alabama. That's just a side note. But yeah, I would say team, Baylor, player, Will Anderson.
I've got one overall, and I'm trying to do some digging on it. So I think I'm right. I'm not counting bowl games. I don't believe there were any games, regular season games, canceled because of COVID for this year.
Yeah,
I've got to think back on it. Major games.
Wait. No. Oh, well, yeah, major games. Yeah, but Cal had a couple of games postponed, if you remember that.
Did they?
Yeah, they had a couple of games.
Cal and USC, but we're talking big games, Josh.
Big games. All right, so then never mind. All right,
Not
so I'm going to
featuring
go with
the
the team.
extended head coach, Mr. Wilcox.
What? This is a
Hang
next
on,
week
Josh.
thing.
You get your turn.
I can't wait to show up for that conversation with
buddy.
facts.
Easy, buddy. Hey,
facts.
Hey,
there's gonna be like a 15-minute segment for a certain new USC coach and how fans have reacted, and then another like 10-15-minute segment for Justin Wilcox.
Oh, I'll go 20 minutes about Justin Wilcox.
Yeah.
Continue, Brady.
Anyways, I'm going to go with one of my hot takes from the beginning of the year. How I was half right. Biggest surprise from this year, and it hammered the over of 2.5, was Rutgers winning 5 regular season games.
Yeah.
I said they would go 6-6 and go to a bowl game. They did not go 6-6. They went 5-7, but they filled in last minute for a bowl game. So I'm counting it as going 5-7, sure, and going to a bowl game. But Rutgers doubling,
and then some.
They won.
Oh, well, 2.5.
Their odds were
2.5 is doubling.
5.
Yeah, 2.5
doubling,
would be
Josh.
double.
So
2.5 would be double. I thought you said they were like doubling up from. No, yeah, you're right.
Oh no. They won twice the amount as they were expected to. So that was my biggest surprise. And also, I know that he has been a prominent factor on the team for a few years, but how good of a season Aiden Hutchinson had was crazy. And it was one of those things where, since he isn't an interior defensive lineman, he's that outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. He doesn't have, if you look at his stats, they don't compare as highly to some of the other players in college football, purely because, say he was lined up on the left side, they're running the ball right. They're going away from him, and he was still able to produce at such a high level. And the other biggest surprise was a punter getting a Heisman vote.
Big Matt.
Bro, I did like a whole thing on why like Matt Araiza actually needs to be considered like one of the best players in college football. He pretty much obliterated like every punting record that college football's ever had in regards to like yards per punt average, like 50-yard punts in a season, 60-yard punts in a season, 70-yard punts in a season. They have such like advanced stats now that they pretty much like determined that like San Diego State, like as a result of his punts, were like a plus 70 in point differential because of how he was pinning back other opponents. Like, the dude was like insane. Like, I legitimately think, like, Lyle, I know you've had the best punter in the NFL over the last few years. I think in a year or two, I think Matt Araiza is going to be the best punter in the NFL. Like, he's actually insane. For those that actually watched any highlights of a punter on YouTube,
He probably will be.
You had your 4 years in the sun, Lyle. Now it's time for others to enjoy the best punter.
Yeah, I mean that dude's like unprecedented for a punter. I don't know if I would have given him a Heisman vote, but I mean we've seen crazier Heisman votes been given out.
That's true. All right,
Will
guys.
he get picked higher than who was the Florida State kicker from a few years back?
Roberto Aguayo.
Yes.
I think he went in the second round, like
Yeah,
the
he did.
Second or third
Well,
round.
and Seabass all those years ago, Janikowski
Yeah,
went
when
the
the first round.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'll quite see that. I bet you a team uses a draft pick on him. I can't say it's going to be a day 2 pick. Like
I
if it's
think
gonna be a second round.
I think he'll be a day 2 pick.
Really?
Like 5.
I do, yeah. I think he'll
Wait,
go in the, I think
five
he'll go
what?
in the third round.
Round 5.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say like 4th or 5th round. But okay, so we have our predictions.
I'm going with it. Guys, we got a super chat again from our man Connor. Now, this is a good one because I was going to bring this up in regards to disappointments, but I guess this can technically count as surprising as well. I was surprised by North Carolina crashing and burning this year. Now, I mean, entering the year, we knew that they were losing so many players on that offense that are producing in the NFL, but I still don't think that we expected them to pretty much. I think they finished the season 6-6, I want to say, maybe 7-5. I still thought they'd be hanging around for the ACC. I thought that Sam Howell would, be he was my Heisman pick, but I didn't think they were going to be this bad. So, I mean, were you guys surprised that North Carolina had such a massive fall off and Sam Howell, like passing wise, had the worst year of his 3-year career? Like he was kind of like the consensus number 1 overall pick, number 1 quarterback off the board, and now he's like quarterback 3, 4, maybe 2, depending on whose rankings you see.
Yeah, I think all of those quarterbacks in that kind of group were all really disappointing this year, and beyond Sam Howell, it includes Jaden Daniels. I thought Spencer Rattler was obviously disappointing. Keaton Slovis, Brock Purdy, like that group of 5 quarterbacks that we all raved about at the beginning of this year were not very good this year at all. And I think I don't remember what DJ Uyunglele's stats were off the top of my head.
Bad.
They were not good. I don't know if he still sits in that category of like, holy cow, that bad. But they were not very good. Like Slovis had some moments where he looked pretty good. There were moments where he looked bad. And then it was the same thing as Sam Howell, where it's like, man, there were some moments where it's like, oh, dude's got it. But the stats overall and the team's success were not there where you expected it to be. I still think this dude is probably the best NFL. I think he's the most NFL ready quarterback out of that group, but I just don't think that's saying a whole lot after this year. I mean, they were not very good. I remember looking at that schedule earlier this year, and I remember this was not one of my hot takes, but it's something I definitely said on the show. And I said, North Carolina and Clemson. Look at their schedule and tell me who's going to beat them. And man, was
a lot
that
of teams.
a lot of teams, as it turned out, a bunch of teams were going to beat him. And that conference championship game was something that none of us predicted, which is cool. I think that's awesome. And we've been saying for a long time how the ACC is probably worse than the Pac-12, especially in terms of consistency for teams. But this year, I thought the ACC was fun because you had new teams that were playing so well. And one of the victims to these new teams playing so well was North Carolina expecting to be really good and in fact being very, very upsetting.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. I think this quarterback class, which we can dive into this later in the offseason, but I think this quarterback class is 2013 level bad at this point. And for those who don't know that reference, there was one quarterback who went in the first round in 2013, and it was EJ Manuel. I think there's going to be more than one quarterback that goes in the first round this year, but the grades on all these guys are not high. The comp I heard for Kenny Pickett, who might be the first QB off the board, is Derek Carr. And I think Derek Carr is fine, but the point is there's no franchise changers in this draft class. I would honestly at this point be fairly shocked if anybody turns out to be a superstar from this class. But yeah, in terms of Sam Howell, I mean, I definitely thought UNC would take a dip because of how much they were losing on offense and then losing Chaz Surratt, who was basically the captain and the best player of that defense too. But I didn't think it would get to the level that it did, where they just had such a disappointing season. And it really kind of just spiraled out of control for him with Sam Howell having the worst year of his career, like you guys said. So, yeah, that was a surprise for sure.
Now, while EJ Manuel was the only quarterback in the first round, but it's not like, it was a quarterback class that ended up being anything, and there was just one in the first round. That quarterback class in 2013 featured EJ Manuel, Geno Smith, Mike Lennon, Matt Barkley, Ryan Nassib, Tyler Wilson, Landry Jones, Brad Sorensen, Zach Dysart, BJ Daniels. That is the...
Not good.
I mean, good Lord.
Not good at all.
At least some of them are still in the NFL. That's barely.
Wait, what was that?
Oh, I said at least some of them are still in the NFL.
Well, that's
but
true.
Barely. But barely. All right, guys, before we get to some disappointments, let's answer a few questions, unless Brady wants to quickly chime in on something.
Is Matt Barkley still around? Is he on a team right now?
I think he's the
He was in Buffalo.
I think
now
he's the
with
backup
Trubisky.
in... Yeah, I want to say Tennessee.
Wasn't he a Bear for like 5 minutes?
He's a backup somewhere, I think.
Matt Barkley is an American quarterback who is a free agent.
Free agent.
Who knows? Let's answer a few questions, guys,
He
before we
was
get
on
to
the
some disappointments.
Panthers.
He was a Bear in 2016.
Boy, oh boy. All right, guys. Gant Darwin wants to know, what is your opinion on Stetson coming back for one final year? Personally, I think he should have gone out on top. He should have just said that's it. I've done what I needed to do, everyone, because now he's going to come back, do what we all expect him to do, and the fan base is, well, I guess at this point it's impossible for him to be hated, but like he could have just rode off in the sunset with his Canes deal, his Great Clips deal, but instead he'll be back and Georgia might be let down next season.
The mailman will always deliver. He's winning another one.
I think he should have. He's going to win the Heisman next year. I think he should have declared for the NFL draft so that we could have so much good content on this show next week. You should have declared.
Next year we'll get Bo Nix and Stetson Bennett. Don't worry.
Oh God!
In the national championship game, please. I hope.
I mean, I get it. I don't think he has much draft stock, to say the least, so I get him coming back for next year. The only thing is we might end up having the same type of conversation at some point during the 2022 season, because Georgia's supposed to have a couple of really, really highly recruited quarterbacks coming in. So at some point, I feel like there might be a question of, if Stetson Bennett does not get off to a good start, when is Kirby Smart going to make the move, if he does?
Right. It'll never happen. Never.
Yeah.
We got Thomas Boyle with a surprising one. How about Ole Miss? Not very surprising how good they did, however. Did you know it was their first 10-win regular season in program history? When I heard that stat, I was blown away that they had never won 10 games ever.
As Coach Steve said, choo-choo, all aboard. All aboard the lane train.
I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but it's pretty close.
Please tell me you guys are following Lane Kiffin and like his recruiting journey just this offseason.
Yes.
I
mean, he's an absolute legend. I know that. I mean, I like him. I think he's hilarious. And I think that I remember hearing an interview with him about all the things that he learned while at USC and then went to Bama and what he learned from Saban at Bama. And like, what he said he learned and what he said he wanted to do differently, he's like very clearly like doing that now, and he's like living his best life, and I think it's awesome.
I mean, I think we've had this discussion like every offseason, but like we always ask, like, if you could play for any coach, who would it be? Like, I get Nick Saban, like you're going to win, but how can you not want to play for Lane Kiffin at this point? I mean, let me get him. Brady, what do you got?
Well, we talk about this comparison. Week 1 next year is Georgia at Oregon.
Yes. Oh
yes!
My God, I forgot.
And you know what's so funny is that's gonna be game day.
It's
gotta be game day.
Oregon, Georgia, Bo Nix, Stetson Bennett.
No.
Can you wait for the game day graphic when they go down and they're on that little fake turf field thing right below the set, and then they have those two like. They like put those two giant graphics in that come down on the either side of the people like talking or whatever. It's going to be the two of them.
Oh my God, I forgot.
That's going to be
about
our
this.
Twitter header when it happens next season. I'm calling it now. And you can clip this next season when they do that on game day, because it's going to be we're going to tweet this clip with the caption, check out our Twitter header. And it's going to be the Twitter header. I'm calling it right now.
Oh my God, that game is going to be.
Yes.
This shows two favorite quarterbacks squaring off once and
Yes.
for all. We love it.
Yeah.
But Wilton Spate's not playing in this game.
Well, what about
that's
Graham
true, he's not.
Mertz?
Oh, and him.
That's true.
What about your guy from
Grant Wells.
Grant
Grant
Wells?
Wells. Yeah,
Too
Grant
many.
Wells. That's my guy. He
many.
already faced off with Bo Nix.
We'll do one from short round before we get to the disappointments, before we wrap up the show. Shout out to Rutgers punter for landing in Australia, hearing the news of the bowl game, quarantining, then flying to LA, then Jacksonville to be with the team.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just like Blake's mustache. It's awesome.
Oh,
I
you guys should have
disagree.
seen it. Bro, yeah. I once, when I went into quarantine on New Year's Day, I just shaved it all, kept the mustache, and just said, I ain't going anywhere for 2 weeks. Let's just
You look
let
like if
this
Super Mario were actually a plumber.
almost fully come back.
Oh yeah, you
All
had
right,
Big
guys.
Rona. How was that?
Oh, it was a great time. Got to stay in my room, not go anywhere, which I
Lucky.
do anyway, and let it just exit my system. But
Wait,
Hey.
stop. Put up Connor's comment.
let's see if I can find it.
It's the last one. What? How did I miss this?
I
Am
must
I
have missed
Virginia-
this too.
Grant Wells is at Virginia Tech. Am I a Hokies fan now?
Bro, there have been so many moves that have happened because of the transfer portal. Like, I found out yesterday, Max Johnson is now the quarterback at Texas A&M. Like,
The
I
dude
must
from LSU?
yeah, I must
Oh,
have missed
he's
that.
bad. No, he's
Zach-
real bad.
Zach Calzada is at Auburn. Like,
I did know that.
There's been so much that's been going on. All right, guys, we'll just go
I
quickly
just looked it
now.
up. I'm not sure if Grant Wells is on. Hang on. Let's take a quick look.
No, he is. How 4 days into the portal, how Virginia Tech's new staff quickly won over transfer QB Grant Wells from the Roanoke Times. Also, while we're here, can we talk about the original Roanoke people who vanished from the face of the earth? This is now a history show.
All right, guys,
Look it up. It happened.
We have a few minutes for your biggest disappointments from the 2021 season.
Josh. My biggest disappointment is Josh. He does everything to disappoint me.
Yeah, I do it on purpose. My biggest disappointment, speaking of quarterbacks, was Max Johnson against UCLA. Holy cow, buddy. That's something you want to do over for, huh? In reality, I think my biggest disappointments are one, first and foremost, sorry, Jaden Daniels. My God. That is one of my biggest disappointments this year. Hoping next year he flips the script. 2, USC. My God. I pulled this up. Guys. In the preseason poll, they were 15th in the AP and 14th in the coaches poll. Sweet Lord in heaven, were they bad? Best game of the year, they played BYU and should have won. And BYU was good. So that's a disappointment for me. And then the quarterback class, like we talked about going into this year. I mean, this was going to be a really big year for those 5 guys. And they were all disappointing, which, like, I know that we've had, like Lyle brought up that 2013 class. It is easier for us to look back on that class now, but in the moment, that class was not very good. When was the last time we had a QB class like this where you thought, wow, this is going to be a good year, and have all of them play terribly and lose their jobs? Some of them lost their jobs this year mid-season. Like, when was the last time we had that, where we had like 5 legitimate players, 2 of them lost their jobs, and the other 3 were just not very good? So, I mean, I think that class as a whole was disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I guess my 2 would be shout out to Thomas again. He put it in the comments. So I think it's a good one. Washington. I didn't think they'd be great. I didn't think they'd be as bad as they were and start off their season by losing to Montana. I mean, that's a disappointment, to say the least.
Go Grizzlies.
So I would say Washington 1. And I would say Clemson and DJ Uiagalelei too. I mean, look, they won 10 games, and for just about any other school in college football, that's a good season. But nobody expected them to get off on that foot to start their season, where they couldn't move the ball, they weren't scoring points. DJ just didn't have a great year in general, when we thought he was going to be a potential number 1 pick entering this season come 2023. Yeah, they didn't have a bad year. They just have some stuff to clean up for next season.
One of my biggest disappointments was Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. I really do hope I'm not going to say turns around his career, because he hasn't been to the level we expect him to be at, but hopefully South Carolina can be a good turning point for him. My biggest overall disappointment from college football from 2021, we'll go into 2022, is we've lost one of our favorite people to talk about. The great Tate Martell has retired from playing football, guys. And that, to me, is damn disappointing.
You lost.
So he'll go be on a boat eating sushi off some chick. Never mind, but he'll go be doing his stuff. Tate Martell going to do his thing.
You lost Tate Martell and Coach O in the same year. How are you still?
Am I short round?
Dude, I think you're short round.
Also, I'm realistic. I knew the Hoosiers were going to be terrible. I had no hopes. But go ahead, Lyle. What were you saying?
Was it Lyle that did that when Brady missed the show, when Lyle said like his prediction was going to be the Hoosiers were going to suck? Because if you really went in and looked at their season, they were
preseason 17 in both polls.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Brady missed a show where after that first week where a bunch of ranked teams lost. I was talking about, you look at Indiana's
schedule by Iowa.
Yeah, you look at Indiana's schedule from last year, and they had some wins that were ranked wins at the time. But then when you look at what was called some of their signature wins in 2020, they were beating 3-5 Michigan State, and they were beating, a Penn State team that was under 500. Like, some of those wins in 2020 didn't end up being all that significant. But that was back at the start of the year. No, Brady, I just said, how are you still surviving losing Tate Martell and Coach O in the same season?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I'm just going to go listen to Coach O on Pardon My Take, talk about his mom's gumbo recipe. If anyone had seen that clip, it's awesome. But I'm realistic about the Hoosiers.
There was a comment earlier about that Georgia kid saying who got footage of Coach O when he was in college? Because this sounded like Coach O. Also, guys, before we wrap this up, would you guys like to take a roundtable guess as to how many touchdown passes Tate Martell finished his collegiate career with, going all the way back to 2018, that spanned 3 different programs?
0.
I was going to say 2.
He had 1. He had 1 back at Ohio State in 2018 in garbage time.
I remember that.
He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. But I believe over his, I'll just get this really quick before we go, over his final 3 years, so his 2 years with Miami and then his 1 year with UNLV, would you guys like to take a guess as to how many passes he completed in those 3 years?
11. Were you holding up a 0? He had a passing touchdown.
No, in his 3 years after Ohio State.
Oh,
I'm gonna say 2. 0. I'm gonna say 0.
I mean, Miami basically only used him as a wide receiver. I'm gonna say 8.
I was gonna change to 8.
He had 3 completions and 7 attempts.
I win. Price is right.
I mean, I hate to continue to rag on the guy, but we do this with quarterbacks quite a bit, so I'm gonna do it anyway. Is he one of the biggest disappointments in college football history?
I think he's the biggest.
You think he's the biggest?
He was 5-star, the next big thing, and he finished his career with 1 touchdown pass.
Yeah, he was a top 10 overall recruit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was the number 1 overall quarterback recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly because he was when he was I think 14, he signed with Sark when he was at Washington. Then he committed to Texas A&M as a sophomore, then to Ohio State. And do you guys remember that whole thing when Justin Fields committed? He talked down to Justin Fields and talked a bunch of crap about him. And he was oh, he's coming in to take me down for the job. He's got another thing coming. And
but he never had injuries, right?
No,
that's what makes him the biggest disappointment. Is he never had any injury setbacks, as far as we know.
He just got beat out.
He was a 4-star by 24/7. He was the number 56 player in the country, number 2 dual threat quarterback, number 2 player in Nevada. The number 1 player in Nevada that year was Tyjon Lindsey.
I thought he was
Bubba
higher.
Bolden. Bubba Bolden was number 3.
Yeah, he was a bust for a while too, and he's at Miami now, and he was playing, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was at Miami. I don't know if he's still there.
He never played at USC.
Who was the number 1?
At least his sister's
quarterback. Hey, here are the quarterbacks around him in the top dual threat quarterback recruits of that class. Number 1 is Tua. Number 2 is Tate Martell. Number 3, Kellen Mond. Number 4, Sam Ehlinger. N'Kosi Perry at 7.
Oh boy, there we go.
Braxton Burmeister, yeah. Rocky Lombardi 13. The great.
Oh my
Rocky
God.
Lombardi.
All right, so I think that's the perfect way to wrap up the biggest
Tate
disappointment
Martell.
and the best show. Also, I'm looking forward to immediately. Lyle sent the video in our group chat of the What You Say, so I'll be watching that immediately following the conclusion of the show. Next week, guys, we're going to be back. The date to be determined. Follow us on Twitter at the HH_show_ so that way you can get all the latest news in regards to that. We're going to be talking about pretty much all the coaching changes that have happened over the course of the offseason because we haven't had a chance to talk about any of them. So we're going to be talking about the coaches that are at new schools, the coaches that have left their schools, assistant coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, rumors, coaches on the hot seat. So if you want to hear a show that's filled with coaches, well, that's going to be the show for you. So again, no date yet. It might be Monday, might be Wednesday, might be Tuesday at 2 a.m. Whatever works for our schedules. So stay tuned on our Twitter for when that's going to be.
I think tentatively we said Wednesday, but just to confirm, check our Twitter anyway.
Yeah. So a lot of coaches. We're going to set the timer for Josh on Lincoln Riley at 30 minutes. So Josh,
Thank you.
Practice in the mirror. Keep it under the 30. And,
No. I'm good. Give me 4 minutes for Lincoln Riley.
Give
Give
you
me
30
for Justin Wilcox. Jeez, man.
Is that about his extension or him willingly turning down the Oregon head coaching job?
God, don't spoil it, man. I'm just gonna go. Like, I'm just gonna go.
This is not a show you can afford to miss if you're a listener.
Is this a question or a comment, Short Round? I'm not really sure.
I think it's just an observation.
That's correct.
All right, guys. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH_show_ for all that kind of stuff. Again, next week's going to be coaches. The show after that's going to be everything in regards to the transfer portal. That's going to be a jam-packed one because there's been so much that has taken place. You definitely don't want to miss that. So stay tuned on our Twitter. Again, that's where you can keep all the information out there. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Guys, any parting words before we head out for the week?
You guys look like the Steve Buscemi meme of "How do you do, fellow kids?"
Yeah.
Hello, young ones.
Yeah, Ontario Reign Broadcast Network. If you want to see stuff go off the rails this weekend between the Reign and the Tucson Roadrunners, OntarioReign.com, 6 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. It's going to be crazy. First Responders Night. Tickets are still available.
There you
look
go.
at this man, Steve Buscemi. Oh, look at his. It's the shirt for me.
Music band.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Perfect,
that is
perfect.
awesome. We should get him on this show.
Let's
Easy
do
enough.
it.
Brady, I'm sure you have his number somehow.
I'll find a way.
Oh yeah,
All right, guys.
Short Round says hope Brady throws 6 picks this Sunday. Go Rams.
I'm not
All
playing.
right, guys. Well, for Josh, Lyle, Brady,
Oh,
this is
one last thing. I beat Josh in our fantasy football league. Bye.
By 0.15 in garbage time on the last play of the game. 0.15.
Thanks, Justin Jefferson.
all right. We'll see you
All right,
guys
sign off,
next
Blake.
week. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll leave you with this before we go.
Hey guys, it's Taylor here with DCNlive.com, and I've got a crazy Georgia fan.
Yeah?
I don't really know what's going on, so why don't you tell me?
This is the Dogs! It's the Sandberg, baby! It's